Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. Today we are doing Scarecrow, and I'm going to be talking about lighting, and we're probably going to have some effects and stuff to do in here as well. There's a few little bits and pieces which I want to try and experiment with on this one, but largely it shouldn't be too bad with doing that. We're doing a little bit of redesigning here as well, and I'll be probably have a bit to explain with that anyways whenever we get to whenever I show you what I've got. But yeah, so yeah, he's a bit of a. This is, as I say, a bit of a redesign, so there will be some stuff to work with. And again, there's a few little bits that I want to experiment with. This might not. It could be a long one. It could be a short one. I don't know. I kind of expected the snake one to be a lot harder than it actually was, but it wasn't very hard at all. But yeah, and as always, if you've got suggestions for what you'd like to see me draw on another episode, I'll hear them. No guarantees as to whether or not I'll do them, but I'll certainly hear them. Provided you put a comment in and don't just say it out loud. If you say it out loud, I probably won't hear it. But if you put a comment, I will see it, not hear it. I can't hear text. Anyways, I'll begin. Okay, so this is what I've got. As I say, this is a bit of a redesign, so I have a few things that I need to walk through on this. So I decided to include a few elements of both Scarecrow's classic design and a few elements of modern designs as well. So one of the things which I decided to really hammer home here was rope. There's a lot of rope going on in this design. I gave him his kind of normal rope belt that he normally has on his classic design, as well as a little bit of rope around the wrists and some rope to tie off the sleeve, because I've made him very, very skinny. So the idea here being that he needs the rope to keep this sleeve even on his arm, to keep it kind of conforming it all to his arm, otherwise it just kind of flop around like that. And here this is just decorative rope, I guess. And yeah, so I've given him the kind of, oh, it's a bit of slow down there. I don't know what's happening there. I've also given him the kind of classic mask and hat. I like the hat, even though it's not something that people really use all that much anymore. And I've made it very wide brimmed, kind of like his hat from the new Batman Adventures. It's very wide brimmed, but this isn't like a flat stalker hat, I believe is what they call them. He doesn't look like an Undertaker here. But yeah, he's still got the big kind of, I don't know what you call it, like the witch's hat, I suppose, which is really wide brimmed. And so a thing which you also saw in the animated series was there was the second version of Scarecrow, well, the second design that they had, of where he had like hair, like straw hair, sticking out the back of his mask, which I was like, nah, I don't love that. But I think there's elements of it which are interesting, so I decided to have there be little tears in the hat where there's bits of straw sticking out. The idea being that the hat is kind of filled up with straw so that it sits properly on his head. And yeah, he's obviously got the noose, and he's got his mask, which I have put tears in, and I'm going to be making his eyes a solid color. I think I'm just going to make them yellow. But I decided to have them be rounder in shape so that it looks kind of freaky and weird. And I gave him a little nose hole as well. Now the mouth is in such a way here where it kind of obviously stitches over. But what I'm going to have is I'm going to have bits of smoke kind of pouring out of it. The idea being that I had this idea where I was like, well, what if Scarecrow had he was obviously part of the Arkham Asylum design, which they kept for most of the Arkham games, was the my brain's fighting me here, was the gas mask look, which I kind of like. And there's the Fear State design, is that what it's called? I think that was what it was called, where he's got kind of like the big long gas mask and a poncho, which is part of where this kind of cloak comes from. But yeah, so I kind of thought to myself, what if the gas mask was kind of concealed underneath? And so by that logic, you might be seeing like cleaned air coming out of this. So basically something like that is the idea here, that the gas mask is under there, but you can't really see it. So you'd maybe be seeing little bits of smoke kind of coming out of like cleaned air being breathed out. I don't know, maybe. I just think that the smoke might look cool. That's more really the reason why I'm doing it. So then we've got the cloak, the kind of tattered cloak, which is a thing, as I said, partly from the kind of more modern Fear State thing, and also his Batman 89 Echoes design, where you have maybe he's got his big cloak and hat and scythe. I didn't include the scythe here mostly because I don't have the room, but I probably would include it otherwise. But yeah, he's got his big cape in that, and he's clearly supposed to look like Jeff Goldblum, I think. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to look like Jeff Goldblum. He looks like him sometimes. But yeah, so with the kind of final big one, I mean, I've given him a coat here which has like these little metal strips in them, so it looks a bit like a straitjacket, but it's still a coat at the end of the day. And yeah, the last little thing is I've kept the kind of the Freddy Krueger hand. It's been a very big element of Scarecrow's design since Arkham Asylum, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, I included it here, but the idea is that it's basically little caps on his fingers, which all have these little cables coming out from behind them, which then kind of tie into a wrist piece, which then goes up his arm, and that's where the kind of these little tubes that the toxin gets fed through. So yeah, that's really it with the Freddy Krueger hand. Here it's more simple. This is mostly just his bare hand. Like here, this is his bare hand. But yeah, as it relates to lighting and things like that I'm going to be experimenting with, there's a thing which I'm going to try and do, as I said, with the smoke. That'll be one thing. And then there might be like a faint glow off of some of the bits of the needles. But one of the things which I'm going to be doing here is a thing which I'm going to try and do is try and get his eyes to glow a little bit, but I don't want to just use the outer glow here. I don't just want it to be like an emanating glow. I'll try and make it somewhat lens flare-y, which we'll see if I can make that work. I'm not going to be doing... I'll be trying to do that with my kind of gradient tool. You'll see what I mean later. But that's what I'm going to try and do, is get it to work with the gradient tool, and that way I can get the lighting out of it. But yeah, that was a lot of explanation as to both the design elements and also what I'm going to be doing lighting-wise. Lighting-wise, I'm going to try and get some more sinister-looking lighting on this. So we're going to be going very intense and very dark with the lighting. So I think a lot of his edges are going to be very dark. I'm probably going to put in a light line around his whole edge. Maybe mostly over the shoulders, though. But yeah, that's the core stuff here. Is, yeah, big cloak. He's still got the mask, and he's got a coat as well, and he's very skinny. He's very, very skinny. But yeah. So, that was all the stuff I really needed to go over. That was nearly 10 minutes of me explaining stuff already. So yeah, I won't dilly-dally much longer. I'll just start. And yeah, maybe some more of those elements will become more apparent as I'm going. But yeah, anyways, let's begin. Okay, so now the following day. I didn't get as much of this done yesterday as I intended on doing, because I ended up not having as much time as I wanted. But regardless, I'm back now and I'm going to finish it, which shouldn't take much time because I've only got to do the colors and all the accompanying bits. But one of the things which I wanted to draw attention to was the fact that I decided towards the end of my time yesterday to add some patterns to this. So I've added this kind of rounded pattern, the kind of fingerprinty pattern to the cloak, and I added this straight line pattern to the coat. So mostly because I felt like they look a little bare without them. Like it feels like it's a little too basic. I don't know, something about it is just looking a little bare to me. But I feel like with the patterns it kind of helps to add a little bit more kind of tailoring without having to go in and manually do it, especially on the coat. The coat was one which I was like, oh, I kind of want this to have little tears and rips and stuff in it, but I was like, I don't want to spend all day going through and adding all those little tiny bits to it. So instead I decided to do this, where I gave it a little bit of a pattern so that it just kind of has this kind of bit of tatteredness to it, without this kind of messiness in the lines to it, which I don't have to go through and do by hand. It's the same with the cloak. The cloak has now this kind of this distinctive texture to it, so that it stands out. But yeah, so there's that at least. So there's something there that's making these stand out a little bit differently. That's all I really wanted to say. But yeah, so in terms of colors, I'm going to be dealing with a lot of brown. So let me think about this. So I'm going to have lots and lots of brown. So I'm going to have a pale brown for the mask, and then I'm going to have to do the straw color. I'm going to have a dark brown for the hat, which I'll probably use the same color for the trousers. I might even use that same color for the cloak. There's going to be the rope colors. There's going to be a skin color. There's going to be the tiny little bits of silver. Dealing with a lot of different colors here, and I'm going to make his eyes yellow, I think, like an orangey yellow. So what I'm going to be doing in terms of his skin color, I was thinking initially about making just the bits around the eyes and the mouth just fully black, but the problem is that whenever I do that, you lose the what do you call it, the stitching. You lose the stitching, which I put a lot of effort into doing, so I don't want to lose that now. So I have to do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it be the skin color, but whenever I'm going in with the painted shading, I'm going to paint this really dark, so that it will, for all intents and purposes, be black, more or less. But you'll still be able to see the stitching. Now, I should note that on this we're going to be doing very, very intense lighting, because again, the whole idea of this is lighting. I'm going to be doing very dark lighting, of where I'm like, normally I would turn the painted shading down to like a 70% would be the amount of it that I'd be doing, but here I might leave it even at 90%. I'm not going to go for 100% because that's pretty intense, but I might leave it pretty high is what I'm saying. We're going to be going for very intense shading. And yeah, there's a few bits and pieces of little effects which I want to do, such as I might add a little bit of glow to the needles, and I might add, oh yeah, I need to add some glow to his eyes, and I'll need to put some smoke coming out of the inside of the mask. So I can probably do the eye glow during this section. It'll take like 5 seconds, and I can... Actually, you know, I'll probably introduce that after I've done all this stuff. I'll say that. I'll do that after I've done this section. But I'm going to have to do the background during this, which is going to be some sort of orange sort of thing, perhaps. I don't know. We will figure that out as I go. But something which I want to mention is the fact that I tend to give Scarecrow a slightly darker skin tone. Just to kind of, I think more so, I think it helps kind of fit with the rest of his color scheme. I give him a slightly darker skin tone. He's normally quite pale in a lot of stuff, but I tend to darken his skin a little bit. Just because I feel like it fits the overall color scheme a little better. But yeah, I think it's about time that I actually start doing these colors as opposed to just talking about them. So anyways, I'll begin. Okay, alright, that is our base colors done. So I tried my best to try and kind of emulate the color scheme that Scarecrow has in the animated series. In his first few appearances, obviously not New Batman Adventures, because that's a very different color scheme, very different look. And yeah, so obviously, like, his skin is a darker tone, but you can't really tell whenever it's against the rest of these colors, because his skin is still the one of the lighter colors here on show. I had to do a lot of tinkering with the beige and the rope color and all this stuff to get it to stick out from one another. I had to change the background a little bit. I had it just sat on a placeholder for a while. I think I'm probably going to put a separate texture on the background or do some smoke or something to alter the kind of shape of it as it stands, because I'm not feeling this as it stands. This is not really what I'm here for. So I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something for the background. But yeah, I mentioned that I was gonna do the eye glow, which is pretty easy. All in all I have to do is grab the color, make it maybe a little bit more intense, get my gradient tool, make it this, and then just get it to be that, and then just boop, like that. That's it really. Do it here as well. Then set that to an overlay. Maybe not an overlay. Overlay is interesting looking. Or is it just on normal? On normal, it's a little plain. Vivid light. See, this is where the tinkering comes in with this type of stuff, is you just filter with you just change what types of filters you're dealing with, because you get all these different kinds of colors out of them. Vivid light is interesting looking. Hard light, no, not much of what I want. Soft light's too soft. Overlay is kind of mild enough. Vivid light, I think, is probably what we actually want, because overlay is pretty mild. Because yeah, vivid light makes the inside of the eye look really intense. So yeah, I'll turn that off for now because we don't need it yet. That's more of a final touch thing. But it's the type of thing which is pretty easy to do, so I may as well just show it off now. I've already got the mild glow on the what do you call it? The toxin in the Freddy Krueger hand. Yeah. Oh god. So yeah, I decided to have his cloak be like nearly black, but not quite black. It's a very, very dark brown. If we're going by the way I was thinking about it in my mind was the different types of chocolate. So this brown here is a kind of this is normal milk chocolate. Then we've got the kind of dark chocolate here, I suppose. And then if we want to continue the analogy, we've got the white chocolate, which is slightly out of date here. So it's a little not quite white anymore. But yeah. Anyways, this next section we got to do is the painted shading. So that will be, I'll set it to 80% for now, and we'll see how we feel with that, because it is still 10% more intense than I would normally go for. So the type of shading that I think we're going to be going for here is that the I was thinking to myself that I was going to make the excuse me. I was going to make the middle really dark, and then the edges would be where all the light is. But if the edges were really dark and any of the light is only coming in from the middle, that maybe works a little better. Or, you know what, it's probably easier to just have it be coming from one side. That's just generally easier. Even though he's quite flat facing forward here towards the camera. He's not really got any tilt or anything. Tilt is normally how like body tilt is normally how I inform where the lighting is coming from. Say for example, I have the characters tilted like that. I would have the light coming from here because it would be towards them, and then by that logic, the rim light would be around obviously the darker side of them. But here, because he's kind of flatly facing towards the camera, the kind of logical choice in my mind would be to just have him have like a rim light that would be kind of just around here. That would just end at the shoulders, really. You have a pretty basic rim light that would just be kind of like that around these kind of edges here, like that. Nothing too intense. And just have it be quite dark. My other thought was, because my original note on what I was going to do for this video was that it was going to be sinister lighting, meaning that I would have gone for underlighting. But because you're not really getting much of the face, you're not really going to be seeing how that'll look. It's going to look a little strange, the sinister lighting angle of it. So it's not really going to get across what I want. So it's not really much of a point in doing that. So I'm at a point here where I kind of don't know what to do with the lighting. Might just have it be coming from the lighter part coming from the right. It's easier a lot of the time, or the other way around. Because the light here is, yeah, I wouldn't want to put a rim light here. So I'll have the lights coming from the left, because I wouldn't want to put a rim light around this hand, because it'd look bad. Yeah, right. So the light will be coming from the left, dark's on the right. Okay. Alright, that's what I'm going to do. So, I'll do the painted shading, any sort of background tinkering. I have to do the gas coming out of the mask at the front here, or like the whatever kind of cleaned air or whatever idea I was trying to get across with that. But yeah, I will do that now. So yeah. Okay, that's all our painted stuff done. Oh. And yeah, so I gave him the little bits of smoke around the mouth, which I think do add something. Like, I mean, without this on the background, it looks a lot more bare. which was something which I was kind of tinkering with, was just did straight paint strokes, down, 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 down. Did first orange, then slightly lighter orange, then yellow. That was really all I did, and that's kind of added a lot of necessary texture to the background to try and make it a little bit more interesting looking, even though the background isn't the focus of this at all. It does certainly add something, and it really, it really brings in that Batman Begins brown color palette. But yeah, well, I mean, we're gonna be kind of the gradient maps will maybe kind of tinker with some stuff, because I'll kind of pink up the darks and then I'll yellow up the lights. So that'll be kind of how that's going to look, more or less. And then the texture and all that stuff going over it will probably do some stuff. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that works. But yeah, we shall see. Because first I gotta do the detailed shading and the light line, but that will be our last little bit of stuff. Oh yeah, I did also have to erase that little bit of smoke there, just so that that little bit of string dangling off in front of the hat remained visible, because otherwise it was getting kind of a little bit obscured. But yeah, anyways, I will do this detailed shading and light line, and then that'll be us. So yeah. Alright, well, that is us done, basically. That is the detail shading and the light line done. It is starting to get dark, but it's not actually that dark, really. It just looks like that because the light from the monitor is casting a little bit more light now. And that just means my frame rate is a little lower here. But yeah, that is everything done more or less. I realized as I was doing this that this background actually looks like a dark drink held up against light. That's actually what this looks like. I just thought that was kind of funny as I was going. But yeah, anyways, bizarre observations aside, that's the detailed shading, that is the light line done. I don't think I'm forgetting much, but to do the gradient maps. So, gradient map 1. I'll make the darkest color a slightly pinky red. Very slightly, but it's going to be very dark. And then our lightest will be yellow, but on this scale, slightly oranger scale. And then here we're going to put an orange. I'm going to make that one pretty dark. Probably skew it more rich in that way. And then this one will be in the red scale, and it'll be very dark. Put it about there. That's good enough, I think. But yeah, as I said before, this is a very dark gradient map, and that's what we want. So let's put it on overlay. Yeah, it's dark. It's very dark. Okay, we're not actually going to use an overlay, we're going to use a soft light, but we're probably going to keep this one kind of high this time. I'm not going to turn it down to 60%, I'm going to keep it on 70%. I'm going to see how that looks. I'm going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to put that underneath and make it a luminosity. And I'm going to turn this one down to 20%. think I'm going to keep the rest of these more or less as normal. So that's our luminosity. Now we need a color burn, which I'll leave on 10%. You know, leave that one on 10%. I don't see why not. We're getting very different colors now. Again, as I say, it's a lot darker, much darker. And so now all we have left to do is add the texture. I'm actually considering turning this down a little bit. I think that the 10% is a little much for that. I think, yeah, because the color burn is quite dark. It always darkens things quite a bit. So I think just leaving it too dark is not quite what I want. Oh god, that's quite bright. It is actually getting dark. So, yeah, whenever I opened up my folder here just to find the texture, that was quite harsh on the eyes for a second there. But, yes, so now I will grab the texture, wherever that is. Here it is. And I will throw it in. And I'm probably going to make the texture a little bit more intense here as well, because we want that kind of intensity. So I'm going to put this mood overlay. 35%. Make it 35%. Let's go with that. Yeah, make it 35% because that'll brighten things up a tiny bit. But we do want this bottom area here to be practically black, which is what it is. It's practically black. But yeah, and yeah, as of course, I also want the kind of bottoms of the cloak to kind of bleed into that as well, which they do. So we got it. But yeah, that was Scarecrow. That was my Scarecrow redesign. And we did lighting as well, and the eyes glow, and there's a bit of smoke coming out of his mouth. So I did all the stuff I intended on doing, more or less. And yeah, so we're left with something which I'm pretty happy with. Very intense on the gradient maps. The gradient maps do a lot of work here. And that's the thing, whenever you need a particular color palette to come across, you just use gradient maps, and they do a lot of the work for you. However, I mean, there's also the idea of having a particular color palette in mind and just coloring with that color palette from the get-go, which sometimes I do as well. And yeah, with the shading and stuff like that, doing detailed shading, all that stuff helps to establish a color palette. So if you have a very particular color palette that you're trying to achieve, it is something that you can very easily do by using detailed shading and stuff like that. And of course, from the get-go, kind of skewing your colors can also do that for you as well, if that's what you're trying to do. But yeah, it is surprising, to be honest, that I'm finishing an art video and there is still any light left in the day. I haven't done one of these in quite some time where it's actually bright outside in any respect at the end. But yeah. So yeah, I feel like that is us. I feel like that is us. So I will... yeah, I'll do my outro, and I think that'll be it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one, all in all. This is kind of how I envision Scarecrow, anyways, as being a little bit more creepy looking. I prefer whenever he looks creepy, but not too kind of try hard. That's the thing that you have to try and avoid, I suppose, with characters like Scarecrow, is that it can come across as though you're trying too hard sometimes. So I kind of... I want to keep a lot of those elements, like the hat and like the old mask. I don't love a lot of the kind of newer masks. I don't love I think the Fear State design is quite compelling because it's very interesting looking, but I'm not too keen on the gas mask, like the long gas mask, which is obviously supposed to give you that kind of Plague Doctor vibe. I don't love that. I don't like the hat. The hat is a lot. The kind of straw hat that he's got, it's quite a lot. But there's a lot of elements of it that I like. I like the gloves, I like the poncho, I like a lot of those elements. And again, it's very distinct. It is a very distinct design. I like the new Batman Adventures Scarecrow design a lot, with the big hat, and or the flat, long hat, and the fact that he's always kind of in shadow. You never really get a good look at his face. And the mask is very kind of weird and ghoulish looking. I think it's a very compelling design. But I think it kind of is a little much as well. It feels like it's kind of trying a little too hard. I think the black hair is kind of weird looking. And ironically, that's also something that the Fierce State design kind of has, is the black hair. So, anyways, that's enough design rambling. I think I was going to do the outro there a second ago, but I got a little sidetracked. Anyways, if you liked the video, do whatever that you normally do, whether that be liking or not. I would, of course, prefer if you did like it, but I can't make you do that, so whatever it is that you're comfortable with doing, that's what I'm happy with. It's the same deal. If you want to subscribe, go for it. If you for whatever reason would prefer not to, that is of course fine. And yeah, I don't need to tell you where the subscribe button is. If you've seen a YouTube video before, which you presumably have, you'll know where it is. And yeah, if you choose to watch the next video, I will see you next time. So with all that said, I'm still taking suggestions. If you choose to, if you would like to leave one, I'd be very happy. I'll see it. No guarantees on whether or not I'll do it, but that goes without saying. But yeah, with all that said, that is us. So I'll say goodbye and I'll leave you. So, bye-bye.